The role of sport, one of the issues discussed at the Tourism Business Council's Leadership Conference, which is taking place in Sun City. The conference is seeing airlines, hotel groups, government, private companies talking about the future of tourism after the COVID-19 pandemic. Our reporter Ahmed Kajee is there. Ahmed, good afternoon to you. We all know that sport definitely attracts people to South Africa. How important is that to our tourism efforts?
Very much so, Stephen, and that's what we are expecting over the next 12 to 24 months on the local front as well. We just saw this weekend the Cape Town Stadium being filled to capacity for an entire weekend coming through from the Rugby Sevens World Cup. That's just one of the attractions which we are seeing throughout the year as well. Just coming up in November at this exact location, we will be seeing the Nedbank Golf Challenge, Africa's major, taking place here at the Gary Player Club, Golf Club, Country Club rather, and this is what we will be seeing throughout perhaps South Africa. And this particular aspect raises a significant amount of income for the Department of Tourism, for the tourism sector as a whole, and this is something which obviously then contributes significantly to the GDP as well. But just speaking towards this as well, I think the experts would be now a great part to bring into this conversation. TV, the CEO at 4Bets will now join us. Fundi, thanks very much for your time today. Perhaps taking us through the importance of sport for tourism.
I mean, I was listening to you earlier on, Ahmed. Thank you very much for having us, because sport plays such an integral part of the value chain of what we import and export as South Africa. You say that it's the Springbok Sevens, it is the Nedbank Cup Challenge. We at 4 Racing have what we call the Summer Cup in Turfentine. So I think what's important is not only do we really in the global stage feature in terms of world-class facilities in South Africa, but we really have packaged amazing sporting products that can be shared worldwide. I mean, who'd have ever thought that horse racing throughout the world, specifically the South African horse racing product, is so renowned, and we just really need to emphasize on that. And I'm glad to be here for once, because we always assume that tourism is the animals, is the beaches, the mountain, is the bush, but there's just so much more that South Africa can package and really make a compelling value proposition to the world.
I mean, you being part of the horse racing fraternity goes a long way, because, I mean, the Durban July is something that not just attracts people for the horse racing, but also for the fashion and the lifestyle. That seems to be a big part of what we are seeing for local tourism, especially over the last 2 years.
I mean, it's huge. So the Durban July is probably Africa's richest race, so it really is world-renowned, right? Then you also similarly have the Met at Kenilworth. Beautiful facilities. The Queen's Plate, which is now the King's Plate, goes back into the days, back of the monarchy. And finally at Turfentine, the Summer Cup, probably the oldest race, horse race, dating back into the early mid-1800s. So we really have some very, very rich sporting history around South Africa. But amazing sportsmen as well, right? We always forget that there are jockeys, that they are also well-renowned, like a Smanga Khumalo, who recently won the Durban July. So it's amazing. And let's not forget, we've got world-class breeding facilities. So horses are bred in South Africa throughout about 3 or 4 provinces, and they end up being exported globally. So it's just an amazing value proposition, and we really, really need to emphasize, package it, and sell it as part of an overall tourism product that we have as South Africa.
From your sector then, what exactly are you hoping to come from this particular conference? And then just secondly, speaking towards where we will be going over the next 24 months trying to recover from the pandemic.
I think first things first, for me it was important to be here, like you said earlier on, for sport to be recognized as an important player in the South African value chain, and importantly because we are well known for our sporting capabilities as South Africans. So that's what I'd like to get more of, to make sure that our voice is heard and that we sit at the table with an equal value proposition, because previously we haven't. So that's the first thing. I think what's interesting, and my previous hat having been with AXA, Airports Company South Africa, is it's a conversation about how do we recover and rebuild. And that really kind of goes across all angles, even in horse racing. So we also had to stop racing behind closed doors, etc., etc. And it really is time for us to put all our resources together. Resources are limited, time is limited, and we need to pull in together, cohesively, coordinated as South Africa, to make sure that we put together, like I said, compelling value proposition that can be sold. Because if I look at what South Africa offers, multifaceted industries that come together to bring one amazing value proposition, and we need to come to the table, work together, and package it and sell it even more for the next 24 to 36 months, really.
Wendy, thanks very much for your time. It's greatly appreciated. I'm sure we will be continuing these conversations going forward. And Stephen, this is just one aspect of what we will be seeing over the next day and a half or so, specifically speaking towards tourism coming through from a sports fraternity, from a small medium and micro businesses point of view, and just the overall aspects of what we can expect over the next 12 to 24 months to ensure that recovery is completed with regards to travel, tourism, and perhaps recovering from that impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, which we had seen over the last 24 months. Stephen.
Ahmed, one of the big debates obviously is to make it as easy as possible for people to come to South Africa and spend their money here. There's been a lot of talk around visas, how difficult it can be. E-visas, many countries have those. What are people saying about e-visas there today?
This particular call came through from the Tourism Business Council of South Africa. It's the holder and the host of this particular conference. And they say that Tibiwa Tivengwa, the CEO, spoke specifically to the Department of Home Affairs because they were one of the stakeholders present here this morning. They say that it's exceptionally important for us to digitize as South Africa the e-visa system to make it easier for people to come into the country and to perhaps include the local tourism aspect as well. Many of times we have seen the digitization of the Home Affairs system, but they say this perhaps needs to increase to ensure that access to South Africa is easier. That major challenges that we had seen due to the Omicron variant in December of last year played a significant and perhaps a negative impact on the international tourism coming in. So a big part of these e-visa debates saying that it's exceptionally important to make that process easy and accessible to as many South Africans and as many international guests coming in, and just to ensure that the Home Affairs systems are adequately prepared to make sure that that does take place, and in this way here increasing that travel coming in. And the reason this is exceptionally important as well is that we have seen airlines, international airlines, making their way flying into South African airports. Delta Airlines, United Airlines, we just saw Air Belgium also just flying into OR Tambo International Airport today from Brussels. These international transport, these international airlines flying into South Africa now to ensure that they can recover their costs to their respective sectors, which also means that we will see an increase in tourism on the South African space. But to get these perhaps international tourists coming into South Africa, these e-visa systems and the electronic digitization of Home Affairs and their respective systems needs to be ensured, needs to perhaps be improved, and in this way or form the tourism sector cannot just recover but perhaps grow on an exponential scale to increase that economic growth to the GDP of South Africa. Stephen.
Ahmed Kajee, thank you very much indeed, our reporter at that Tourism Business Conference live from Sun City this afternoon.